Hello Orchid friends, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching my video, my channel is all about orchids. From what orchids I have, how I grow them, my thoughts on certain orchid topics, to what orchids in my collection are blooming, etc. So if you want to follow along my orchid hobby adventure, please consider subscribing to my channel and turn on the notification. Today in this video, we're going to take a look at my Phalaenopsis yellow pixies again. And why do I say again? Because I actually have a total of 6 Phalaenopsis yellow pixies in my collection. I bought them on 3 separate different occasions, and the 2 that we are looking at today in this video would be the 2 oldest ones, the first 2 that I have purchased. So yellow pixies came to my collection from grocery stores. They are grocery store foul, but because they are fragrant and I was able to detect their fragrance at the store, so I immediately picked them up. These 2, I only got 2, but then I think at the time I remember seeing 5 of them. I didn't know how they would do the first 2, so I decided just to pick up 2. And they were $8.99, I believe, and because it's quite affordable, I always buy 2 if it's good fowl that I know will bring me joy. I always get 2 just in case. And at the time, my collection was still small, so having a fragrant Phalaenopsis was, having fragrant ones, it was just something that was giving me a lot of joy, so I decided to pick up 2. Anyway, so these 2 are peloric slightly. If you just take a look at the petals, you see that it's not the same as the typical Phalaenopsis orchid. It's not as rounded, and it's a little pointy, and you can tell that the petals are not quite smooth, and it's just a little, it has the peloric characteristic. And this one is a sequential bloomer, so I usually keep their spikes. If they're green, I keep them, and typically in winter time, they would elongate and produce more buds, just like what you see in the photo here. And it also produce new spikes. And we can talk about that, the conditions for Phalaenopsis orchid to initiate their spikes later in the video. And they're super fragrant and really require very minimum care. I typically give them quarter strength fertilizer, so 25% of the recommended dosage, and every time I provide about quarter cup of water. They're still sitting in its original bark chip and sphagnum moss mix, and it's been at least 3 years, probably going on 4, and I still haven't repotted them. But this year I am definitely thinking about repotting at least one of them, and the main reason is not because of the media being broken down or anything. It's probably time, but because I keep them relatively dry and I keep up with the ventilation, when I look at the media and I use my hands, my fingers to kind of see how the media does, I really don't think it's that broken down. I didn't repot them right away when I bought them because they were in bloom, and then every time they flower for so long that sometimes it's reaching end of summer. So I didn't think it was a good time to repot, but it proves that I was doing okay with them because they grew quite a bit, and every year they bloom and they produce a bunch of aerial roots. So I'm not that worried that these are overdue for repots. But I think because they have so many aerial roots now, I would like to repot at least one of them, because here are we see two in this video. One of them slightly underperformed compared to the other one and compared to its previous year's performance. So I think that one requires a repot. Potentially, I'm thinking maybe the media is broken down, and perhaps the roots inside the media is a bit requires a little bit of trimming. So I think I'm gonna do one of them for sure. And the benefit of repotting orchids with lots of aerial roots is you get to conserve a little bit more horizontal space that you can use for other orchids. Because I have quite a few orchids with lots of aerial roots, and sometimes, I mean, first of all, I really enjoy looking at the roots. And sometimes I really just want to allow every orchids and their roots to have enough space in between. So I feel like I'm running out of space on my grow rack. So I think that repotting some area roots back into their containers would be beneficial. I may not necessarily get more orchids, but just having a little bit more space when you move them around, when doing watering, it comes in handy. I think, everybody can appreciate a little bit more space in between orchids, because sometimes if you're not careful, you do knock them down, knock them off sometimes, and it happens. But the one thing, if you're repotting aerial roots into containers, make sure you wet them in advance, and if you can, soak them really well. Maybe soak them for a couple hours when you are doing something else, and then come back to it. And then that way aerial roots are becoming more softer, not as rigid, not as crispy. And if you somehow do snap the development, it's okay. Just keep it dry for a week or so, let it scab over, and then provide regular watering care like usual, and that'll be fine. Because it's almost always possible to at least break a little bit of development here and there. That's normal, but you just kind of have to wait for a few days more, and then once it dries up, then the chances of it being rotted is a lot lower. So the video clips that you're seeing here is the one that's produced a new flower spike, and this little flower spike eventually grew to be the one that has 5 flowers. The other one is the one that's slightly underperforming, because I believe that one only gave me 2 flowers on the existing spike, and then it did not produce a new spike this year. So that will be the one that I will repot, I think. I'm still deciding. I'm still trying to soul search and see what method I want to grow that one in, but I'm almost certain that I want to repot that one, the one that left in the video here. So beginning of March 2020, they are almost in full bloom. One of the spike is still working on a little bit of more bud production or maturing. But you can see both of them have really, really nice area roots, and I just can't stop looking at the area roots. I mean, the more roots, the better. They make me feel that they're happy, and because they're happy, I'm happy. When I was making this video, when I was doing the voiceover in Mandarin for my Chinese subscriber, I was more talking about the temperature, because a lot of Chinese subscribers ask me how I get my Phalaenopsis orchid to bloom, and I say one of the most important factor is the temperature cool down in the fall, in the winter time, because and by the way, if you don't know, the best temperature range for the cool down for Phalaenopsis orchid to initiate their spike is between 55 to 65 degree Fahrenheit. So that will probably be around 13 to 18 degrees centigrade or Celsius. For me, usually I start preparing for the cool down after Halloween, so beginning of November, and then into December. I keep my central air relatively low, so it's probably around 14 degrees Celsius, or maybe about 57 Fahrenheit, so it's relatively chilly. So a lot of the times I find myself wearing sweaters inside my house during that time because, I think that's a sacrifice I need to make in order for them to bloom, because the central air is in the sunroom is connected to my overall house. So I don't have a separate way to control the temperature, so the entire house gets to be pretty cool for about a month and a half, and then I would increase it once I see the flower spikes are coming out. I immediately increase the temperature in my house overall. Anyway, this is a quick video on these two's performance. I hope you enjoy it.